support their innovations. Right now he serves 10 to 12% of the Fortune 500 companies, as well as hundreds of startups all over the world. He has more than 600 companies as clients. IP Capital now has about 30 employees, and the leasing company that he also holds, a licensing company rather, has an additional 12 employees here in Vermont. Another company is in the process of being formed. And in my administration as governor, it's businesses like these, finding and growing businesses from manufacturing to value-added agriculture to intellectual property companies that form the future of Vermont and what Vermont can do with business growth and business opportunity. And one of the interesting things about IP Capital is a company that was built without a dime of federal or state money in order to grow in the way that it has. I'm here today, though, to talk about real solutions for the future of building jobs in the economy and helping Vermont's economy grow and prosper. Vermont's a great place to live and raise a family. I have tremendous optimism for the future of Vermont. We have a pristine environment, we have clean air and water, and as we've shown in Tropical Storm Irene, that our sense of community and working together as a state and as an extended family knows no bounds. I believe in Vermonters. I've visited Vermont businesses such as IP Capital from Newport to Bennington, from Highgate to Brattleboro. The amount of innovation, the amount of strength that we have throughout our state is boundless. And the quality of Vermont's workforce is second to none. But most Vermonters recognize that Vermont is a really, really tough place to do business. You know, all of the national surveys that we see raise questions. They place Vermont at 46th, 47th, or 48 in the nation in terms of business friendliness, as the second, third, or fourth worst state to retire in, as the first, second, or third highest tax state in the nation. And these are things that we have to recognize. And although we love our state, that we have great optimism for its future, we have to recognize reality. We have to look at Vermont through the same lenses that other people look at us, and not simply through rose-colored glasses. By understanding what our issues are, we can deal with them. And we can look at what people are telling us, because perception is, in fact, reality. We want a Vermont where our kids can prosper, where our kids can find jobs when they graduate and not have to leave the state to look for opportunities elsewhere. And to do that, what people are telling us that we need to do is very clear. We need to lower the cost of doing business in Vermont. We need to lower taxes. We need to lower energy costs. We need to lower the cost of education. We need to lower the cost of health care. We need to focus on doing these things, and yes, I know it will be tough. But unless we recognize that these are things that we need to do and that we need to work on, we'll never do them. So how are we going to do that? Well, for one thing, we need to look at the long term. And clearly we have to recognize that we can't do any of these things tomorrow. And indeed, a governor can't really do any of these things effectively in 2 years, or for that matter, 4 years. Many of these are long-term strategies. But obviously, if we're going to take a journey, we have to take that journey by setting out a roadmap and taking the first step. This plan, this outline, this framework is designed to do that. So what should our strategies be in order to accomplish these things? Well, I've got 5 of them in terms of 5 key strategies going forward. The first and foremost is we've got to make sure that people know that Vermont is open for business. That's a key element that so many people don't know. There's so much of a perception, not just outside of Vermont, but also within it, that not only is this a difficult place to do business, it's a place which people don't want to do business. We've got to change that perception, and it takes leadership from a governor to start that process. We need to require that government live within its means. We need to balance how much we spend as a state against what our income and our spending capacity is. If we look at how much healthcare insurance rose on average in the United States last year, we should be shocked to know that the spending of our general fund and state government exceeded that percentage. That clearly is something that's unsustainable. It's something we need to deal with. We need to make sure that government lives within its means. We need to reform our tax code. We need to reform our tax code to make taxes simpler, fairer, and certainly easier to understand for people. We've taken complexity to a whole new level. where it's almost impossible for anyone to explain why school boards have kept spending flat, yet school taxes have increased. We need to make taxes simpler so that people can understand them and respect them. We need to reconcile our education and training to meet the needs of our workforce. We're in the 21st century. We have a new workforce, we have a new paradigm, we're in a new age, and we need to make sure that our educational standards, not just in college, but in high school, in middle school, is keeping par. We have this paradox in which so many people can't find employment. And on the other hand, we have so many employers who are crying for employees, but they're faced with people in the workforce who often don't meet the needs, particularly in terms of science, technology, engineering, and math, that businesses in the 21st century need to survive. We need to cure that, and we need to reconcile those two things by taking a number of steps in both areas. And lastly, we need to invest in the Vermont brand. The Vermont brand has value. The Vermont brand is something that's key to our state. It connotes quality, it connotes purity. It connotes a lot of things that we want to make sure that people are aware of. And we need to invest more in that brand, to use that brand more, but also to make it easier for Vermont companies to be able to use that brand and not be caught in bureaucratic complexity and difficulty so that they can't do it. As I look back in history, I look back to the farewell address in 1985 of Governor Dick Snelling. And he said, and I quote, "We have demonstrated that a favorable business climate and a determination to provide the fundamental elements which motivate business decisions can build a stronger economic base. Action to ensure stability, reasonable tax burdens, affordable energy, adequate promotion of agricultural products and travel, and to assure available skills have brought the double reward of more people at work who are earning higher incomes. Simultaneously, tax revenues increase while tax rates and the cost of social programs decrease." We need to follow Governor Snelling's wise advice. Now, in conjunction with this outline that I provided to you, I provided you also a document that says 25 ways to spur economic development and put Vermonters back to work. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Those are just a few things that we can do. Many of them we can do right now, and indeed many of these things don't cost anything to do. In terms of getting Vermont moving forward and getting the job picture going in the right direction, and getting our workforce ready to work and our employers ready to receive employees. Many of these are new. Many of these are continuations of things that governors have called for in years past. The key difference, though, in what I'm calling for here is I'm calling for a change in which there is accountability driven throughout the organization of government. This is not a case in which we're talking about pie-in-the-sky ideas that will last the length of a press conference or a State of the Union address. These are the things that we have to establish, that we have to measure, that we have to monitor, that we have to test, and that we have to report upon, not once a year to the legislature, but on an ongoing daily basis by establishing such things as report cards, CompStat-like, if you remember CompStat, the procedure that Rudy Giuliani and Bill Bratton used so effectively in New York City to make sure that government is on a daily basis doing what the public expects it to do so that they and the public can see what's happening. I'll take questions about any of these as we go forward, but I'll touch on a few of the high points that are in here. For one thing, one of the things I'm calling for is the establishment of a Department of Innovation. We have a Department of Information and Innovation in which the Chief Information Officer and, quote, innovation are combined in the same organization. It doesn't work, it hasn't worked. I would split that department. I would create a separate Department of Innovation, and that Department of Innovation is the internal consultant for state government, whose function is to drive improvement and to drive change. And I do that without adding any staff, because my goal in all of this is to decrease the size of state government, not to increase it. With the case of the Chief Information Officer, I'd make that person a true Chief Information Officer and empower him or her to make the necessary changes to get our information technology structure where it ought to be. Among the other changes or recommendations here, I would force rank every function of government and prioritize each from top to bottom. You know, historically, when we've made cost reductions in government over the past few years in reaction to budget needs and budget cuts, what we've done is things like 4% across the board cuts in order to achieve a budget target. And that's the worst possible way that any manager can manage an organization, because what it does is it forces you to do everything in a mediocre fashion. There's some things in government that we have to do superbly. We have to do them very, very, very well. But at the same time, there's some things in government that perhaps we'd love to do if we had the money to do them. But if we don't, we may have to stop doing them. Force ranking issues from top to bottom, that is a hard choice. Across-the-board cuts are not hard choices. We need to get some of our unemployed to work, and one of the ways to get them to work, in addition to finding them jobs and growing businesses like IP Capital and other companies, may involve doing things that are outside of the box. And one of the outside of the box thoughts we have is to create businesses in a box, in which we look for businesses that people who are unemployed or underemployed could actually run, small businesses that we package like franchises. We package them with business plans. We package them with pre-assigned financing arrangements. We package them with